Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at his ongoing state visit to Brazil, has boldly declared that Nigeria is now free of corruption under his leadership. He cited reforms in the foreign exchange markets and increased transparency at the central bank as factors contributing to the anti-corruption reforms spearheaded by his administration.
Nigerians are asking, is this declaration grounded in reality or a political theater? This conversation we're going to have for the first half of this second hour, as we do have joining us to dissect this, a seasoned international lawyer and administrator, Ndidi Edeoghon, joins us this morning. Thanks for joining us, and also aware that you are also deep into policies and decisions, especially taken by, you could say, prominent personalities or members of society. So we'd like to also hear your thoughts on the policies that's got to do with what we just said, what's taking place in Brazil. But let's start with the headline. President Tinubu says no more corruption, or corruption, I beg your pardon to use the words he used while he was, sworn into office. Corruption is gone, maybe. But as a legal practitioner, can you share with us how you interpret these type of statements, especially when it's being said outside of the shores of your country or Nigeria?
Yes, thanks for having me. So initially, when I heard this, I thought, okay, there must be some other angle that I'm not seeing here or I'm not hearing. Maybe we have different definitions of the word corruption. So I thought, okay, this must be a perspective thing. So I went deeper. I started to dig into the word corruption because maybe I didn't understand what he was saying. And I realized that maybe he's talking about macro corruption and not micro corruption, because there is a distinction, right? So micro corruption is the everyday corruption people encounter, while macro is the grand systemic corruption, right? That it distorts economy, it distorts governments. The scope of macro is basically high-level government, while that of micro is individuals and low-level officials, right? So impact, let's talk about impact here. And the impact on micro corruption, because I'm talking about this because I need to understand the distinction between both, is that micro generates basically distrust, higher transaction costs, while macro talks about the effect on systemic poverty, on weak institutions, and on less FDIs. So our president is in Brazil, and he's trying to bring us more FDIs, foreign direct investment. So it is probably in this context that he was speaking about this. And the only way I could assess this is by using data, right? Using data, which is very key, so that you don't get into the whole emotional response. And when it comes to data, how do you measure micro corruption? You use it by daily experience surveys, like the Afrobarometer. With macro, you use like corruption indexes and national audit reports. So you're with me so far, right? Let me hear.
Yes, we are.
I want to be like talking.
Yes, we are.
All right, good. So we're on the measurement level, right? Because I thought I have to measure this. I have to understand what is being said here. Now, when it comes to the measurement of corruption, because apparently Nigeria is corruption-free, there is no corruption, so come in. The president did say that, let me even get the exact words, right? He says that his reform has been impactful since he came in 2023. The results are getting clearer to the people. There's no more corruption, easy in, easy out. And see, the CBN government is accessible, right? So in all these statements, I had to analyze them, be like, okay, what exactly are the results that are getting clearer? Let me use data to talk about these results. And the results are that in 2023, till now, there is an index called the Corruption Perception Index, right? Run by Transparent International, TI. And Tinubu was right. President Tinubu was right, because we are not ranked 145th in the world. Now we are ranked 140th. So our score is 26 out of 100, no longer 25 out of 100. So, yes, he was correct. And okay, let's talk about the other measurements, like maybe the convictions of the FCC, right? And again, he's correct. Because in 2024 calendar year, the EFCC actually had the highest ever annual convictions, 4,111. So this is good. He's correct. But then I thought, okay, but really? EFCC, who is actually getting convicted here? And I went deeper, and I found out that it was, fraudsters, internet fraudsters, some foreigners, basically cyber crimes and fraudsters. I said, okay, how about, are there any high level convictions? Because there must be, right? Because we're fighting corruption. There must be high level. And we found that there were maybe like 3 high levels that had to do with the protection of the naira, those cases. But how about governors, ministers? Yes, there was one. EFCC and the ICPC said when it came to convictions, they had 4 governors and 3 former ministers, including, the former CBN governor. Okay, so what is happening to that now? What is the status of that? We do not know. So I'm like, all right, so I'm not quite sure how to assess this now. Let me go into systemic poverty. That's one of the impacts of macro corruption, right? Now, systemic poverty, unfortunately, has increased, according to the World Bank. Yeah? From 46% to 54%. Let's go to weakening institutions. That's another effect of macro corruption. Yeah, there we're not scoring so well either, because basically there have been extra 26 bodies that have failed the basic standard of strong institutions. So I'm really trying to grasp and trying to understand what's being said here, because I understand that, yes, it's true that right now we don't have to get the CBN governor's approval to repatriate funds, so that's good news for the investors. But you need to understand that there is a micro and macroeconomics, and on both levels you need to assess it and find out whether truly Nigeria is corruption-free, right? I'll stop there, because I could go on forever on this. I could really go on forever on this, because there was a lot of analysis I had to do. And the policies are great. Let me talk about the policies, right? The policies that Nigeria has are fantastic when it comes to this, right? Doing business in Nigeria, we have great policies. Basically, we have SMEs, because we're doing an inside-out kind of growth. Because, the SMEs have labor-intensive value, right? So it would help with unemployment. It would help in building the economy. So we have good policies to this. We have the 50,000 naira PCGS grant for nano firms, right? We have the 75 billion naira MSME interventions. The Bank of Industry is preparing 200 billion naira single-digit loans, yeah? And a manufacturing facility is in progress or in perception. So this is good. But all this, without addressing the micro corruption, seems like a very futile exercise.
So what would have been a better way? What would have been a better way for? What would have been a better way for the president to make this statement, or a more realistic statement? If you say that yes, there has been progress. I mean, you've made reference to our position on Transparency International in terms of our corruption rating. So if we say yes, there have been progress, that there are policies that are pushing us in the right direction. However, these cannot be looked at absolutely without looking at the micro situations where people have to explore what corruption is. So what would have been a more realistic statement to have been made in this situation?
Well, I think you should have just specified it in the area of repatriation of funds. In that sense, we can see that there's amazing progress. When you're normally changing naira in the black market or in the official rates, there's very, very minimal disparity, if any now, right? So that's good. That's really good. But as an investor, I will look at all these ratings as well. I would look at how are we rating our governance. Let me give you some statistics, which is very mind-boggling. I found that out yesterday. I'm trying to get as recent as possible. And this is done by Barometer. Yeah, it was a body that kind of Afrobarometer, sorry, about statistics. And it said here, right, recently, that 67% of Nigerians paid bribe for police help, right? 53% paid to avoid trouble of the police. 56% paid bribe to get government documents. And 8 out of 10 say corruption increased somewhat or a lot since May 24 to May 25. And on the level of perceived corruption, they say, Nigerians, according to this survey, that the police, 70% say the police is the most corrupt, then the presidency with 62%, then parliament with 65%, local government councillors with 55%, and judges with 54%. So all these percentages, right, are casting a doubt of whether Nigeria is truly corruption-free. And when I, as an investor, will come in, I would look at all these things. How will I be able to enforce my judgments? How is the climate? Will I have to do certain things that would compromise my integrity? I would look at these things. So he needs to have been more specific when he said this, because we can't fool what we already know, right? We can't fool the people.
Now, let's talk about some of the gains of this administration in terms of fighting corruption. Transparency in the forest market is commendable. You don't have those huge arbitrage gaps that we used to have in the past. But corruption in Nigeria seems to be systemic. Can reforms in one sector justify such a sweeping declaration?
Sorry, so the question is whether it's systemic? Is that what you're trying to ask?
Yes, and I mean, the corruption in Nigeria seems to be systemic, but can reforms in one sector, like the forex market reforms, justify such a sweeping declaration that, you know, corruption,
no,
Nigeria's
exactly.
corruption?
It can't. I mean, we have so many sectors. We have so many sectors that we need to focus on, right? I understand that Forex is like, okay, we focus on money, I get that. But there's so many sectors. And I also believe that if you have a very strong consequence for any area of corruption, whether it's basically beating a traffic light and meeting someone on the road and saying, "Oh, sorry, I beat a traffic light," you know? Something as simple as that. Where there is an obvious cause and effect pattern, you would automatically reduce corruption. You know, so we're talking about policies on the high level. Yes, it's good, whistleblowing, stuff like that. Yeah, that reduces corruption. And we're talking about framing policies to that effect. Yes. But why don't you just start small? Why don't you just start with the fact that if this happens, this will happen to you, and then go through the prosecution process? I was completely disappointed. I was elated when I found out, okay, the EFCC had done so many convictions. I was so happy. I'm like, yes, finally. But then I thought, let me find out who they've been convicting, right? And we need to see the high-level convictions. We need to see more of that to build the trust in the populace, and also to build the trust in the fact that if you mess up, no matter how high you are, you will bear the consequences.
All right.
So that systemic angle, yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at the video for the benefit of our audience who maybe haven't gotten to see it yet. Let's take a look at the video where the president made the declaration, and when we'll come back from that, we'll ask our next question.
The reform that I've embarked upon since I took over in Nigeria has been very impactful. I can beat my chest for that. It was initially painful, but today the result is blossoming. It's getting clearer to the people. We have more money to the economy, no more corruption. We have the governor of Central Bank here. You don't have to know him before you get the foreign exchange that you need. The speculators are out in our currency market. The door is open for businesses. Easy in, easy out.
All right. There you have it, the president making those very strong, bold declarations as to where we stand. So now my question to you would be, if we say that he cannot make such sweeping statements, what benchmarks would need to have been met before Nigeria can credibly claim to be corruption-free across board?
The benchmark, well, I like the corruption perception index. We scored, 25%, right? The average in sub-Sahara Africa is 33%. You know, can we at least get to the average, which is abysmal, 33%? In fact, if my child scored 33%, I I would punish them, right? I wouldn't be, hey, well done, you didn't fail as bad as you should have failed. I would punish you. But okay, let's just say that's fine. Can we get to like 33%? And then we can start talking about, okay, let's see about we're corruption free or we're getting better. We're 25%. Yeah.
Anyway, let's look at what this could mean, especially for Nigerian businesses, businesses in Nigeria, foreign direct investments, because when the president talks tough in this manner, saying corruption is no more, this should ordinarily attract more investors. So don't you think so?
Yes. Well, I think it will, because in some angles, we have gotten better. I gave an example, right? I give an example. And investors and foreigners keep on coming to Nigeria because we are amazing. We are amazing. We have the human resources. We have the raw materials. We're good. And what I think could be done, I mean, Smedden actually said, what did Smedden say the other day about the report? They gave a report that said that our earnings in 2024 contribute to 6% of the GDP, right, our export. So foreigners see this, investors see this, and they're like, oh, there's something in Nigeria, and this is good. So I don't think the president said anything less than what he said, but I think he could have quoted what he said, right? Because it is true. Nigeria is an amazing place to come and invest. To do business in Nigeria, it will work. People from within Africa and all over the world do come to Nigeria. But in order to guarantee and to make them more relaxed, the investors, that is, you need to strengthen the institutions. You need to make them see that if this happens, this will happen. You need to secure the fact that maybe their staff, if their staff isn't getting paid this amount of money, they must get paid. If their staff goes on strike, what would happen? You need to make them feel happy in these micro things, I guess you would say, but very significant things for them to be able to feel comfortable in your country. Or otherwise, you would just be attracting venture capitalists. Easy in, easy out. Yes, that's exactly what they would do. Right? Not the money, well, the money with the money, of course. They would come in, scavenge, say thank you very much, and then zap.
Now, some critics have said that this declaration by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is premature. It's just 2 years into his administration, and dangerous that it could undermine current anti-corruption efforts by creating a false sense of achievement. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, well, I'm a very positive person. I teach leadership programs to students, to youths, trying to raise the apathy. So I need this kind of positivity in my life. This was why I didn't just laugh it off and I didn't think, oh, shit, there we go again, right? It is a good statement. It is a good statement because it gives people hope, and I've given you data to show that it is actually a true statement in some areas. So I align with the critics that say, we shouldn't have done this or said this so generally, but I do not agree with those critics that say that it would dampen the hopes. I think it actually makes the hopes go up. It made my hope go up. I thought, okay, especially with the EFCC convictions. So you need to give the government small praises. Not small praises to be like, hey, you've done a great job, thank you so much, but small praises in the sense of effort. You're making effort. Now, in this effort, give them guidance on how to curtail their effort so that it's sustainable. Because you cannot keep on pouring water into a bucket that has holes. I mean, you're making so much effort, you're fetching that water, you're sweating, it's boiling, you're like sweating all over the place, but the bucket has a hole, right? Kudos to the effort, but how far with the sustainability and the impact? So, critics, I get you, I feel you, but hey, let's give kudos where kudos is supposed to be given, and let's guide the government into what they should be doing.
All right, in this fight against corruption, you have championed youth development and civic education. What impact does this kind of rhetoric have on young Nigerians? And let's also talk about the roles that we as citizens have in the fight against corruption.
Okay, so it's a two-tier question you asked there. So what impact on the youths? The youths, I've been doing this for 10, 12 years. So they are the most impressionable set of people. And it's very easy, because I teach between primary 4 all the way to secondary university. And it's very easy to, make the mind malleable in primary school. They actually are positive. it's actually the parents that kind of make them negative by, saying comments that they just latch onto, right? But the youths in primary school, early secondary school, they actually believe and they actually want to make Nigeria better. So if I was to tell my, primary school child, right, you know what, Nigeria is getting better, blah, 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 it would give the youth hope. I'm like, oh, really? So all I'm doing is actually, it can work, and I'll keep on going. Now, if I am bombarded, which we are, by negativity, especially in the mind of the youth, they just go into complete apathy. Like, what's the point? What's really the point in doing all this? Because really, if we're scoring 25%, how am I going to get better? Why if I even bother? So the youth, we have to be very careful how we relay information to them. It must be realistic, but it must have a lace of hope. Like, we are corruption-free, quote unquote, in this angle. Our round tripping that we used to do, our double rates that we used to have gone. So this is good. But in other areas, we may not be. So it gives the youth a compass on where to direct their energies to. But if you just go out and say, you know what, Nigeria just, it demoralizes them, and then you give me more work. You give me more work in trying to raise their hopes towards that.
Right. And now
what was the second question?
Yes, the second part was the roles that we as individuals have in the fight against corruption.
Ooh, the office of the citizen.
Yeah.
That is the best role ever. So I belong to a group. I went to the School of Politics, Policy, and Governance, right? And that's exactly what we champion. The office of the citizen. We do not know how much power we have. I mean, let me give you an example. I'm not talking about mob justice. I mean, I watched this clip yesterday about like a VIO official that basically had to, get redirected in the manner in which they were stopping the vehicles, right? So this was like the power of the people to say, you know what, enough is enough. Let's not do it this way. So if truly we become less selfish, because that's what I see our problem to be. But like, it doesn't really bother me. How this one concern me? I beg, leave me, free me. If we become less of that and rise up to the office of the citizen, it will work. We would actually become less corrupt. If you see something being done and you're like, this isn't fair, you're like, how that one concern me? Eventually it will concern you, right? But the office of the citizen is the most important office that we have. And if we can only get to that position where we are like, this isn't fair, let's do something. And this is what I try to tell the youth. Because they're always saying, it's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair. I'm like, okay, redirect this sense of injustice towards the economy, towards Nigeria. Is it fair that this and this happens? No, it's not fair. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. Can we do this? Okay, why not? And then they go home and parents go, I beg, no, leave me alone. Right, so Office of the Citizen, please keep on championing it here on your show because it's really, really important.
All right. Anyway, I'm sure that we'll get more analysis on this statement made, and plus we'll also get to feel the pulse of some Nigerians who may have a rather very positive opinion on the statement made that there's no more corruption in Nigeria, especially with a video we shared on Wake Up Conversation showing some security operatives, licking their fingers and counting some monies that allegedly...
Micro
that's the micro corruption that we're talking about.
Macro.
Macro and micro. Absolutely.
Get it right.
Absolutely.
Macro, there's a difference.
Absolutely. Thanks for breaking it down for us in that manner, and thanks for joining us. We look forward to have you again. Ndidi Edeoghon, thank you.
Wait. Let me give you one last quote, just like ruminate, yeah?
Okay.
I love this book when I saw it, yeah? It says this: repair your vessel first, or the well will mock your labor. Yeah.
Repair your vessel first.
Or there's another one from Haggai, fantastic scripture. It says, you earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Very
That's a good one.
wrap up
That's
the
a good one.
conversation. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Ndidi, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.